Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Chris Wright. I'm a landscape photographer working out of Granada, Spain. Now this week was quite a momentous week because this channel has just passed the 4,000 subscriber mark, and that I have to say goes sort of way beyond my earliest expectations, and I'd really like to say thanks to every single one of you. Personally, if need be. It's 4,000 subscribers is quite significant, and it's an awful lot. It feels like an awful lot of people who are prepared to listen to me wittering on week after week after week. So thanks very much, guys. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, with 4,000 subscribers comes an inevitable increase in I guess one might say trollery, and I had an interesting email from somebody this week who said to me, "You've bored the pants off me with your endless discourse about black and white photography. Why don't you, which nobody likes, why don't you concentrate on colour, where the more intelligent people like, and just do things that are popular?" Well, for that person, I've decided to do a special program today. We're going to do colour processing in infrared photography, and let's get on with it. The way that we're going to approach this is a few things. One thing which is a comparatively new development. Now, there are a lot of videos about infrared color processing, and in truth it's not terribly complicated. A lot depends, probably the majority of it depends on the type of filter that you have on your camera. I've got a 720 nanometer filter, which is great for black and white and a little bit of false color. So I'm able to tease out blues and a sort of apricot orangey color, and I can play around with those combinations, but not really very much more. You'll see other different wavelength filters allow a lot more color information through, and you can get some really wild results, but I chose to do mine largely in black and white and to feature this sort of monochrome look. Now, one of the things that is key is beyond the filter. The filter, if you have the conversion done professionally, like I did by ProTech in Sussex, what they will do is set a white balance in the camera. So the image that you get on the back of the camera is what you should be looking to process in Lightroom, in PhotoLab, in Affinity Photo, whatever software you happen to use. Now, Lightroom in particular, we have a problem, and that is that Lightroom can't cope with the range of temperature variations. So you're stuck with a very, very red photograph, and the way that we get around this is to create a custom profile, a DCP profile, matching the camera, that produces an image which effectively matches the white balance that you have on the back of your camera when you take the photograph. It's comparatively simple to do, but so far as I'm aware, the Adobe utility that's used to create these profiles ceased to work on Mac OS I think about 5 years ago. So I've been working with the one that I made 10 years ago ever since, and you can download these things from the internet, but it's actually much more fun if you can do it yourself. And just out of curiosity, I decided to check it out again today to see, or rather yesterday, to see if it would work on the new computer. Miraculously, it does. It seems that Adobe have quietly updated the utility, and I'll show you the download details and everything in the body of the video, but you can create these profiles now yourself. It's very, very straightforward, and there's a distinct advantage to doing it because you're matching the profile that you have on your camera. So it makes it much more intuitive to edit. You're, like an ordinary color photograph, you're editing something that you've already seen on the back of your camera, so you kind of know how red it is, how much blue there is in it, and so on and so forth. So distinct advantage to doing this, and of course it opens the door to making other types of camera profile as well, which might be an interesting thing to pursue. Okay, so let's get into the DNG profile creation process. So what we want is for the file that we see in Lightroom or PhotoLab to look the same, more or less, as what you see on the back of your camera screen. So in order to do that, we've got to jump through a couple of hoops. So the first of these should be fairly obvious here. We're looking at the untreated DNG file that was produced in camera, and it's very red, and we've got no latitude whatsoever. We can only make this more fiery. We can't cool it down any more than that, so we need to do something about this, and the way that we do this is we create an infrared camera profile, a DCP file. And let's go through the way that you do this. So what we do is we use a utility that is created by Adobe, and you can get that utility here. Now, this utility never used to, well, it did used to work on the Apple Mac, but certainly not in the last 5 years. So I was quite pleasantly surprised to find this slightly newer version that does work. You need to go, because there's a few different sites you can get this from. Go to this site, so helpx.adobe.com, camera-raw, digital-negative.html. Scroll down the page until you get to DNG Profile Editor September 2012, and you'll notice here you've got a new in brackets written next to the Mac OS. So this is a new version, an updated version, and this does work with Mac OS. So click on that to download and install that on your computer. Now, I've already done that, so we'll invoke the DNG profile editor. So what happens is we've got here untitled recipe. And what we want to do is to open this DNG file. So what happens then is we go to go to color matrices, and we turn this temperature all the way down in the white balance. Yeah, so all the way down to there in the white balance, and really that's all we need to do. And I'm going to give it a name, so I'm going to call it Canon 550D infrared profile June 2025. Okay, and just check that's picked up. Yeah, June 2025, okay. And it knows where to put this. Okay, so let's export it. Exported successfully. Alright, so now we can kill this off. Don't save. You can save that if you like, if you want to regenerate it. It's a good idea. Now we need to restart Lightroom Classic. Okay, there's our picture, and we need to go into the profile here, go into the browser, and if we scroll down, we will find, don't worry about the, look at these, it's that one, yeah, it's that one. Okay, and now you can see we can ease the temperature back into something that is more closer to what we want to deal with. So we've got lots of room, we can warm it up and cool it down, and that's more or less where we want to be with this picture. And from here we can go on and edit. Now, one more thing to point out here is where you find this profile, if you want to place this manually, you need to basically view the hidden files in your own profile. So this is quite confusing, and I've seen a lot of documentation that says go to the library, drill down to Adobe, etc, etc, etc. That is not where the custom profiles live. Custom profiles live under your own directory on Mac. So first of all, you go to your own username, you run the commands to see hidden files, which is Command Shift full stop, and that will toggle the hidden files on and off. So Command Shift full stop, oops, Command Shift full stop hides, Command Shift full stop reveals. Go into library, application support, Adobe, camera raw, camera profiles. Okay, and here you can see the camera profile that we just made. If I put these in list view, there it is, today 1656, job done. So worth remembering that, because I've seen a lot of documentation that will send you to the library and application support where Adobe keeps all of the off-the-shelf camera profiles. That is not where you keep it. Okay, so now we've gone through the business of creating the DCP camera profile to match your camera. You can deploy this into Adobe Lightroom, you can deploy it into DxO PhotoLab. So this is a useful thing to have. Okay, let's get on with the actual processing. Okay, so let's take this on now into Adobe Photoshop, and we're going to show you color swapping, two different ways of doing this. First of all, I want to actually just do a couple of little corrections here. So I need to check my white point and check my black point, just get a bit more contrast in here so we've got a good separation between the sky, what we've got in the middle, and the foreground. Okay, so we've got good separate components. Now, take this into Photoshop, edit in Adobe Photoshop, turn that off completely. Okay, and what I always do here is make a copy, and this is perhaps not entirely necessary, but I like to do this as a sort of safety valve in case I make a complete hash of this. So let's go ahead and do the first color swap. So this is color swapping using the channel mixer. So if we go in here, now the intention here is basically to swap the red channel for the blue channel. So I've got my output channel red. I need to change that to 0 and make the blue 100. Okay, so that's an interesting change already. Now I go to the blue and I make the red 100 and I make the blue 0. Okay, and this is a typical, I've got a 720 nm filter, which is really will produce this look. So it's a sort of teal and you know, nice apricot coloured trees, slightly turquoisey, tealy sky. And from this point you can go ahead and you know, develop the picture as you want. We're not talking realism here, this is infrared, so there's a lot of scope to do what you want with this. Now I'm going to show you the other way of doing this. So I'm going to turn that off, that reverts it back to our original, and I'm going to do this with levels. Okay, so we've got the levels screen, scroll it up a little bit. Now what we want to do is we want to swap this slider for this slider. You can't do this in one go because you won't be able to grab the second slider. So I take this most of the way, then I take my second slider down and put this at the end. This now looks like a negative, so we change the blend to hue, and you've got a slightly different look and feel, and really it's a question of which one do you prefer. So if we turn that one on, that's one look and feel, turn that off, turn that on, that's another one. And I think this does vary a little bit from picture to picture, and I think with the important thing with infrared photography is to get a really good balanced exposure with plenty of red in the original raw file, and then you can't go too far wrong. Now what I often do from this point, yes, you can do all of the usual dodging and burning and so on, but just as a quick one, we can go to Nik Collection, we can go to Color Efex, open Color Efex, we select all of the channels here. Okay, close this, and I just like to add a few effects here. So I'm particularly fond of my Pro Contrast, which we will find here. Okay, and you can either take a preset or you can fiddle around with it. Now what I prefer to do is to take the neutral and then fiddle around with it a little bit myself, so I can lift my shadows ever so slightly, give it a little bit more pop here, add a bit of contrast, bit of dynamic contrast, and that really brings this picture much more to life. And of course there's a lot of things that we can do here with colour, but it is very subjective. Some people hate this, others love it. It's entirely subjective. So here it is with colour effects applied, without colour effects. It's just a small contrast, but that gives you a feeling for how you can do this. Now there's another thing that I wanted to show you, so we'll take this back down to the original, and this is a black and white conversion. So what we do here, we can use Silver Efex, or we can use a black and white mask here, and then we can go on and we can use the controls within Photoshop to make this more like the way we would like to see it. But let's just use Silver Efex. So go plugins, Nik Collection, Silver Efex, open, again select all the masks, send that back. Here it is in Silver Efex, and we can choose either a preset or we can work on it ourselves. Now I quite like the structured look in black and white with infrared, perhaps slightly less than that, but it's quite a nice look. I'll just modify that very, very slightly. Perhaps a little more white, a little less black. Keep the mid-tones up, and the structure's been reduced. If we put the structure back, it doesn't make a fantastic amount of difference. So again, we can go and we can start dodging and burning on this to produce a perfect result. But there you go, black and white in infrared. Back to the studio. Okay, so that's a quick run through of color swapping techniques in Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. Now, to finish this off, what I'd like to do is have a very quick look at how this all works in DxO PhotoLab. It's a lot easier than you might think. Let's get into that. We've got the original file loaded, and what we want to do is load the DCP profile. So we're going to use the same DCP profile. That's one I'd already prepared. So we go to the import DCP profile dialog. That's the one that we prepared earlier. Okay, and we get a choice of whether we want to use the DxO curve or whether we want to use the Adobe curve. Now, I prefer to use the Adobe curve personally, but it really is a matter of taste, and you can use the intensity slider as well to change this. Okay, so how do we do the color swap? Well, it's amazingly simple in here. So take the outside thing here, take it all the way around until you get to the opposite point, and from this point on you can recognize this as being very similar to what we saw in Lightroom. From this point on you can go ahead and make your own adjustments until it looks the way that you want it to look. Okay, so that's very straightforward. Now, the one thing that I would say about this is it can be a little bit confusing because you've done the color swap. It's not sometimes predictable as to which sliders are going to do which, particularly in the color dialogues here. But you know, it's infrared, it's highly subjective, and you really do whatever you like, play, make it as outrageous as you wish, and there's a lot of latitude within here to get some very different and sometimes quite interesting stylistic changes. Okay. So that pretty much concludes. That's DxO PhotoLab. The one thing that I'll say about infrared photography in general is make sure that obviously the brighter the sunshine, the better. Make sure that you expose the picture well. Don't overexpose it, because with infrared processing, all of this flows into the into the finished article. So this is quite a nice exposure to begin with, this particular picture. If we take another example, this not so much. So if we take this around, you're not getting anything like as powerful a conversion as we got before. Same identical setup, same lens, everything. It's just that the conditions here were different. It was a slightly muggy day, and although there was bright sunshine, there was a lot of also a lot of haze, and that's affected the outcome. Okay, back to the studio. Okay, that's it for this week, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I hope this has been useful. As ever, if it's been useful, give it a tick down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and we'll see you with another great video next week. Thanks very much, guys. Bye now.